The world is filled with amazing and bizarre forms of life. When one examines all the organisms that used to live on our planet, and those that currently do, one will find that life varies immensely. Yet, from what we now know, every single living being, from stromatolites to tigers, from bread moles to Komodo dragons, from humans to beetles, every single living thing evolved from one common ancestor that lived billions of years ago. So, how do we make sense of all this diversity of life? Humans have been categorizing things for the sake of their own understanding for eons. There have been many ways of categorizing life across cultures and centuries. But what is the modern universal system of organism nomenclature? We categorize life forms into different groups called taxa, or taxon, as is the singular of the word. Hence, the discipline of naming organisms is called taxonomy. The father of the modern naming system was Carl Linnaeus. He was a botanist, physician, and zoologist from Småland, southern Sweden. He was very dissatisfied with the nomenclature of the time, and over many years devised a system of binomial nomenclature, which we still use today. Binomial nomenclature means giving organisms a name which is composed of two parts. He based his classification of organisms on their physical structure. If one were to do this in an uninformed manner, there could be problems arising. For example, one could foolishly group pterosaurs, dragonflies, and bats together because all have wings. Obviously, this would be quite a grave mistake because none of these organisms are closely related to each other at all. Thankfully, many of the traits which Linnaeus grouped organisms by turned out to be homologous, meaning that those traits came from a common evolutionary pathway. This is very fortunate, as evolution was not known during Linnaeus' time. Alfred Russel Wallace and Darwin wouldn't come about for some time. Linnaeus steered clear of error in his classification because he recognized some traits were more important than others. He noted that plants could be classified quite well based on their reproductive apparatus. Today we still use his taxa: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. We, according to his binomial nomenclature system, still give organisms their names in two parts, according to their genus and species. Usually these Linnaean names are in Latin, hence they are often informally referred to as Latin names. There have been some alterations made to Linnaeus' system. For example, a new taxon was introduced called domain. Currently, we recognize three domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. We eukarya are distinct from other domains of life in that the genetic material in our cells is bound in a membranous nucleus, whereas the DNA and RNA of bacteria and archaea is not bound by any membrane and floats freely within the cell. In the past, bacteria and archaea were grouped together in the same domain known as monera. However, over time it was recognized that both had distinct genetics. For example, they differ in how they sequence their ribosomal DNA, and each domain's RNA is distinct from the other. Under the domain eukarya, we currently recognize 5 kingdoms: Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. The kingdom Protista, or protists as they are known, is a diverse collection of predominantly unicellular organisms. The cells of protists are highly organized. They contain their membrane-bound nucleus, which is characteristics of all eukaryotes. Protists also have organelles within their cells. Organelles are specialized cellular machinery which carry out particular functions within the cell. Some protists, such as algae, are photosynthetic and contain plastids which can harvest sunlight to produce carbohydrates to sustain the cell. Other protists are more animal-like and are heterotrophic, meaning they get their nutrition from outside sources. Some heterotrophic protists surround and engulf their prey, and others sustain themselves by absorbing nutrients from outside environments. Fungi is another kingdom under eukarya that contain a vast array of types of organisms, from mushrooms to puffballs to molds and to yeasts. They have cell walls, like plants. However, their cell walls are made of chitin, unlike plants. Chitin is a fibrous polysaccharide and is the same substance which insect exoskeletons, fish scales, squid beaks, and the radulae of snails are made of. Like animals, fungi are heterotrophs. They possess a myriad of enzymes to digest their food. Like plants, the only way they move is by growing. Typically, fungi feed by growing on top of their food, releasing enzymes to digest it, and absorbing the nutrients which are released by their enzymes. The kingdom Plantae contains a vast array of organisms such as mosses, liverworts, ferns, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. Plants are characterized by being multicellular, with cell walls made out of cellulose. Plant cells contain vacuoles. Vacuoles are membranous organelles which can change in shape or size. Vacuoles keep the necessary internal pressure within a plant cell to allow the plant to support itself upright as it grows. When you see a flower that is wilted from lack of water, it is because the vacuoles in all of the plant cells have contracted due to a lack of water, and the plant is less able to hold itself upright. Plants are autotrophic, meaning they generate their own food. This is done in their chloroplasts, which is an organelle that is unique to plants and some plant-like protists, such as algae, in which photosynthesis is carried out. Finally, the kingdom Animalia consists of all animals. Animals are always multicellular, always heterotrophic, and almost all animals are capable of movement outside of growth during some stage of their life cycles. Most animals also develop 2 or 3 germ layers during embryonic development. Now, finally, to demonstrate how the phylogenetic tree works, let us classify an organism according to this tree. Let's take, for example, an organism which I find particularly adorable, the European robin, or robin redbreast as it is also known. Robins are eukaryotic and belong to the domain Eukarya. They are multicellular heterotrophs that move around quite a lot, so they belong to the kingdom Animalia. They have a spinal cord protected by vertebrae, putting them in the phylum Chordata. Robins lay eggs, which their young are born out of, and they also have feathers, putting them in the class Aves, which is the class of animals that consists of all birds. Robins have 3 toes pointing forwards and 1 pointing backwards, putting them in the order Passeriforms, an order of birds more colloquially and not too accurately known as perching birds. The European robin belongs to the family Musicopoidea, or Old World flycatchers, which is a family of small passerine birds, all of which have a common evolutionary past and are mostly restricted to Europe, Africa, and Asia, which is the Old World, as opposed to North and South America, which is referred to as the New World. It belongs to the genus Ericathus. Currently, it is the only member of that genus. The Ryukyu robin and Japanese robin were formerly classified in that genus. However, genetic research has shown that those East Asian species are not quite so phylogenetically close to the European robin, and they were moved to another genus, Larvivora. The second part of the robin's name, Rubucella, is a derivative of the Latin word ruber, meaning red. This species name refers to the beautiful reddish-orange breast which the bird possesses. From this, we get robin redbreast's Latin name, Ericathus rubucella. This concludes my video explaining how the phylogenetic tree works. For more videos about natural history, wildlife, and other interesting topics, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a good day.